So 2 litre HDI into a Talbot Express on the original Talbot Express gearbox. You can see the original gearbox there. So the way to do it is you have to get an XUD Talbot gearbox, which is a 1.9 non-turbo XUD, and they are like rocking horse poo. You cannot get hold of them. But if you do get hold of one, and I have 2, one for spares, so no, you can't have it, sorry. Anyway, so if you do get hold of one, you have to mount the TDC sensor, which if I can get in there, I have mounted in the correct location down here. And it's very, very difficult to do, but it's doable. And I used this bolt here as a reference point, and I'll show you what I did. So here's the original gearbox from a Peugeot partner, and as you can see, the bolt hole is there for the reference point, and I've just chopped a lump out of it that houses the sensor, the TDC sensor. So I've chopped that out and I've grafted it into the other box. I haven't welded it, I've sort of sandwiched it where the bolt is. So I've got that much and then that much of the original gearbox, Talbot gearbox, and the bolt goes through and clamps them both together, and then I've JB welded it and it seems okay. I will get it welded when I get the box out, but I hope I don't have to get the box out, because last time I did that I dropped it on my hand and I had a week off work. So you're going to need an intercooler. This intercooler is off a MR2, but it's a all aluminium one, rated up to 350 brake horsepower. So you've got so what's this got? Right, okay, so it's got an EDC 15C2 ECU. Now that is on a Peugeot 306, 406 and some others, early sort of 2000s, and they are single plug Bosch. Sorry if I keep spinning the camera around, I bet that's really annoying. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not good at filming. This is your fuel relay. Now there's 2 types of fuel relays. If you look on eBay, the ones they sell are not the ones you want, and they swear blind that they are. But so this one's second hand, and I can't remember, but if people ask me later on I will. But it's basically one of these connections is wrong on the ones they send you. So you need to get a second hand one of these, and you need to look at the connections on it. But I will, if anybody asks me and really wants to know, I can tell you. But off the top of my head, I haven't got a Scooby. Anyway, so I sent this ECU to HDI Tuning, and they've breathed a bit more life into it, like a lot more. So the wiring loom is 306, 406. Mine is 406. My ECU is 306. So you need the engine wiring loom, and basically the EDC 15C2 wiring loom is pretty straightforward, but there are some pitfalls. But you will work them out if you know how to do continuity checks, etc. Work out which wires you need, and there's really not that many wires. And if you see down here, I've also got an OBD port. I have got a cover at home which I need to put on it, but anyway, I've got an OBD port so I can plug it all in. But you need to buy Peugeot Planet dealer diagnostics to read it. Anyway, and it's very handy. But right, so another thing, I pulled this engine out of a Peugeot partner, and it's running Siemens. It was running Siemens fuel injection. Siemens fuel injection. I've tried to do the wiring loom and everything, put everything from that car into this, and it didn't work because it has a BSI, body systems interface. That's what you want to avoid, because it talks to every part of the car, or van, or whatever, and it's a nightmare. It even talks to the radio, so if you don't have the radio, it won't run. So this is why you go for the Bosch EDC. I went the wrong way with it, so you don't have to. So anyway, so when you get a DW10RHY engine, which these are, they can either have Siemens or Bosch fuel injection. Now this one had Siemens, and it took me 3 months to work out why it wasn't running. The reason being, you need to change the cam wheel. The cam wheel needs to be from a 306, 406, and it's the one that's a vernier cam wheel. It's adjustable. You've got 3 bolts on it. So you do a mixture of, on the bottom crank is Siemens, and the crank, when you time it up, the Woodruff key on the crank actually has 2mm of play in it. Why they bother putting a Woodruff key in there if they're going to do that, I don't know. So you have to wedge a 2mm Allen key into it and then time it up like with the Woodruff key, wedging it, but then time it up like a 306. It's weird. If anybody wants to talk to me about that and they get stuck on that, if they're going to do this, then great. I'll talk you through it. It's not too difficult. That is off 406, I believe, as well. So you need one of those. So yeah, your boost pipe comes in this way. It goes into the engine. So, and then this boost pipe here, it dog legs down the bottom there, at the bottom of the intercooler, comes up over, and then back down and into the turbo. And then, so there's my airflow meter, MAF sensor, breather. I found out in the past, straight into there, comes off the top of the cam box. And my battery's running out now, so I will do a bit more recording for you at another time. So here's my alternator. This plate is mounted to where the original alternator mounting was. It doesn't look pretty, I admit, but it's just got 2 lugs coming off of it to mount the alternator, welded up, and then an adjuster which is quite close to that belt, I admit, but it works, and the adjuster just goes onto the top bit of the alternator. And then I think the belt was 790mm, so it's 4 PK. That means 4 peaks on it rather than 6, because I didn't get it quite lined up from there to there, so rather than 6 and it jumping off, 4 works just as well. So you can see there's a couple of teeth spare there, and then it's on the maximum teeth on that side. So it's out of line, but it's in line because it's only got 4 teeth. But if it works, who cares? So, as you can see, I've also shaved a bit of the alternator, and probably shaved a bit too much. So I will be putting some tape over that. But then I've had to, and that's not very pretty either, but it works. It's very solid, and it's a thicker plate than the original. So I've notched the chassis rail. When that goes up in there, you can see there's quite a big notch out of it. So the alternator fits. There's nowhere else to put the alternator. It can't go at the back because I've got all these pipes, all these turbo pipes. That's my boost pipe coming out the turbo, going back up into the intercooler. As you can see, it's got a slight leak, which I will address. So I did have on my old XUD engine, turbocharged engine, the alternator on the back, but the pipe work was different. So only place alternator on the front. It clears the chassis because that goes around like that. If you can see, that goes up there, as you probably already know. and then I've shaved a bit off of it, which I will cover over. But anyway, it works. It produces good power, and yeah, all tickety boot. You can also see a sandwich plate for my oil cooler in there. Yeah, so my oil cooler, you can see through there, runs up, and then you can see my intercooler in there. And then the radiator behind is from a 1.9 turbo diesel Talbot, because they're not the full length, so you can fit the intercooler in. So to mount it, I had to make an engine mount with a box. And it bolts into the engine down there on the 3 bolts, goes through the cam belt cover in standard position on the engine. So a bit of box, and then everything comes off of that. Obviously, it's got a standard gearbox. You've got a standard end mount, standard rear mount. I've had to make the exhaust. Now they really, on the standard exhausts, you don't get much flow, so I've made it from the exhaust outlet there, where the wastegate is behind there. And again, not pretty, but actually works. It's got a notch out in it for the gear stick. Plenty of flow, that's all 3-inch tube there. What else? Okay, so yeah, my airbox isn't mounted brilliantly. It's cable tied. You know what? I did that temporarily and thought, hey, actually, I can't be bothered. It's not going anywhere. This is a sensor for my water temperature for my standard Talbot gauges. Yeah, so these reduce down to the standard Peugeot partner sizes, and like I said before, we have a Fiat Ducato Talbot Express radiator, 1.9 turbo diesel, because they're shorter. I had to move. This should be over there, but it all gets a bit busy, so that just moves along there. I haven't put a bolt in it, but do you know what? It doesn't actually rattle around and doesn't really matter. Again, one day, get around to all these little fiddly bits that I can't be bothered. Right, so the turbo has got a billet compressor wheel on it. It spins up really quick. The gearbox has got all new synchros, and every gear has been resintered, and there's a company called Bifanco. I'm putting it out there for everybody, but they charge £100 per gear, and then about 30 quid to fit the synchro ring to it. I've done every gear, all 5. Mine's got a longer range ratio diff, because the XUD box is an absolute screamer and you'd be screaming at 60 mile an hour. Some expert told me that he quite happily cruises along at 80 mile an hour in his XUD 1.9. I can tell you now that that is pretty much rubbish, I would say, because he'd have to be doing 1,200,000 RPM to get up to 80 or something similar. So I've got a longer ratio diff. I'm not sure what it's out of. It might be a petrol box diff, but it's the one that can fit in here. And I got that from Mike from Number One Gear, but I believe that he is no longer in the game, and so I probably got the last one. But I could look back through messages. Anybody wants to know what ratio diff I have, and it does help, but not massively. I've also got a taller 5th gear setup, which are like rocking horse poo as well. So at 3,200 RPM with all that stuff in it, it's doing around about 70 mile an hour. It seems to sit happily at about 3,000 revs, and that's 60 mile an hour. So, you know, I don't like to scream it. I'm still running everything in, but I'm sure it will all get a bit quicker as the gearbox runs in, because every part is well, the gears aren't new, but they're recentered, new synchros, etc, etc, etc. Spent quite a bit of time and money sourcing parts and knowledge and talking to lots of people. Now, going back to this cam pulley, you need the 306 cam pulley, otherwise you won't get camshaft and crankshaft synchronization, and it will not run. And also, when the engine turns over, it needs to turn over, if I remember correctly, 180 RPM. So you need a heavier duty starter motor that spins it up really quick. They sell them on eBay. They're not that expensive. Mine wouldn't run. Steve from HDI, absolute legend. He said it's not spinning up fast enough, and that's the only reason I knew that was because I got Peugeot Planet, which is the dealership diagnosis. So it needs to spin up very fast to start, otherwise it won't. And it also needs over 180 psi of pressure on the fuel rail. Now, I've put an R70 fuel pump from a BMW on mine. I've got over 300 psi. Or is it bar? Do you know what I think it's bar? That sounds, no, is it? Yes, it is. It's bar. It's crazy. Crazy figures. 300 bar. It's got to be over 120 bar to start, which is crazy. But anyway, I've got 300, so it injects a little bit more. This thing drinks a lot of fuel, but it doesn't half go. Yeah, it goes very well. But anyway, so that's a little look around what I've done. It's taken me a long time to figure this out. Also, another thing, if you're going to do this, drop your fuel tank, clean everything out, because these HDIs do not like any dirt whatsoever. You'll get the fuel pump regulator on the back of the fuel pump, which is hidden right down there. It's got a tiny little filter, literally. I have got one in the van. I don't know if I can find it, but anyway, it's got a tiny little filter, and it's a nightmare to get to, and it's a very horrible job to change. I don't know if I can see it in here. But anyway, they get blocked up. I've had that happen twice, and it goes into limp mode. So if you're going to do this conversion, my advice, drop your tank, clean that out first, and then go from there. So I hope I've helped everybody a little bit. It's a very, very brief sort of look over what I've done. Oh yeah, clutch. Who are they called? Somewhere in Leeds they make up bespoke clutches. It's made to my own spec. I had to do measurements, etc, etc, but he has got that on file. So if you mention my name, he will be able to make you a clutch, but you'll have to send an XUD clutch to him. I think you'll have to send the XUD Talbot pressure plate, XUD Talbot clutch plate to him with a Peugeot partner cover to fit the flywheel, and he'll make the XUD plate bigger and make it out of Kevlar, which is what mine is, and that is not actually holding the boost at the moment. I'm having to peg the boost right down. It's not holding the torque this engine is producing. But you might go for less boost. You might go for less of a tune. I haven't. And that's basically, so I might have to upgrade the clutch plate to a paddle one, which I'm still not sure if that'll hold it. So we'll see. It still needs running in. Everything needs running in. Exhaust wise, well, just a stainless all the way through. Dirty thing. Not the prettiest. Does the job. Got a rev counter. That's wired into the ECU. Works an absolute treat. Let's so I can see what's going on. Boost gauge, obviously, definitely needed. And you can put an engine management light on it if you want. I haven't bothered. You can put a glow plug light on if you want. I haven't bothered because HDI's hardly ever use their glow plugs anyway. And yeah, I'm not going to use this thing in the winter. So again, don't really care if the glow plugs don't work, because apparently they start without them. So not really got round to that, to, you know, round to a cold winter start anyway. So yeah, there we go. So any questions, you can put it in the comments, or you can find me on the Talbot Owners Club on Facebook. But yeah, it's all a bit cobbled together. Yeah, a nice bit of sticky tape, because I haven't glued it yet. But you know what, you get to a point where you've just had enough, and I'm at that point. Just really had enough. It runs. I'm going to go and do a few festivals, well, I've already done Boomtown, and there's a couple more coming up. And once that's done, this thing's going to be mothballed until I start again next year, probably improving stuff. Anyway, so I've probably bored you enough with this. Oh yeah, lift pump. It's another thing. Lift pump is behind there. You could mount yours underneath. I don't know if you see, it is quite loud, but you need a lift pump to lift fuel up from the tank to then go to the high pressure fuel pump down there. So that's something you've got to think about. If you put it under the van, it'll probably be quieter rather than right in front of you. It goes, I can show you. Loads of tools still rattling around. You can see it's not smoky. Little chuff. Runs clean as anything. It sounds pretty good too. So, yeah. You see it gaining boost quickly, even though it's not running on the road. So yeah, I'm very pleased with it. It's very quiet compared to original Talbots. It's a massive difference. But you can hear that fuel pump. Doesn't bother me, just means I've got an HDI. Anyway, I hope that's giving everybody a bit of insight into what I've done.